It's a good old-fashioned P4 non-conference showdown. UCF versus UNC. But can UCF run Bill Belichick out of town?
You are Locked On UCF, your daily podcast on the UCF Knights. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On UCF, your daily UCF podcast. I'm your host, Mike G. Thank you so much for making Locked On UCF your first listen of every day. Turn us up, turn us on, we'll turn it out. I'm here with my good friend, James Duncan, UCF sports commentator and friend of the show, to talk about UCF versus UNC this weekend. On today's show, we're going to talk about establishing that run. Can UCF establish the run, control the game? And we're going to do a little over-under on some stats here for this one. ESPN favoring the Knights pretty heavy. And then, of course, as we do every single week, we're going to make our game predictions on how this one will go. Let's start at the top, James. Last year, UCF had one of the greatest backs of all time. He was underutilized for most of the season. However, this year, I think it's establishing the run, particularly against your P4 opponents, is going to be super important here. In game one, we saw Miles Montgomery get off to a fast start, but then when Cam Fancher couldn't throw the ball, Jacksonville State keyed in on the run and kind of shut that down. Jaden Nixon had a disappointing debut to the season, and then in game two versus North Carolina A&T kind of broke out a little bit. Talk to me about the run here, man. This offensive line has underperformed, but if they can establish the run, I feel like UCF can run UNC out of their own home here in the bounce house.
Yeah, for sure. And I think establishing the run is going to be the most important thing. You kind of have to earn to pass the ball. You got to be able to put it on the ground and really establish the front before you're able to air anything out. You've got two really talented backs in Miles and Jaden. Jaden, obviously, with an unbelievably explosive previous game. I think he had 5 carries for 150 plus yards and 3 touchdowns. 1 was a kickoff return, but 2 off carries. The guy had a great day. I would expect this backfield to be split. Maybe evenly, if not a little bit in Miles's favor, maybe 60-40. But I would hope for split reps in the backfield because I think both of these guys can light it up at any moment. But do be careful. UNC has a top-rated freshman on their defense, one of the top graded in the country right now, and getting a lot of tackles. This defense is going to expect the run. Like most defenses playing UCF, they will expect the run. But sometimes talent beats knowing what's going to happen. So that's what I hope is going to happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. Look, Scott Frost gave Miles Montgomery a lot of praise in the offseason as a leader, but also as a capable running back. He praised his abilities, but it's really, really hard to run the ball if your line is not getting pushed, man, and not creating holes. And when you're dodging defenders 3 yards in the backfield, life is hard, man. Let's pivot here a little bit to this offensive line. And how do you get it together 3 games into the season, if you're Scott Frost, or is this offensive line just kind of is what it is? And then maybe you have to cover them with play calling, right? Just try to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands fast and get creative with the play calling so the line is not having to block for extended periods of time and give up pressure on your quarterbacks, man. They left Cam Fancher hanging out to dry, man, and I could have turned out a lot worse.
Yeah, I think when you look at an offensive line, you can have all the talent you want in the world, but if there's not enough cohesion, you're not really going to have any success. Unfortunately, I think a lot of these guys thought that the cohesion was there, and these first 2 games proved that wrong. I think with everything happening with Coach Sean Clark right now, I've been hearing that he's doing a little better, and that definitely is good. Obviously, they brought in someone to work with the O-line this week. I would look for improvements in that unit. I think that the potential to be more cohesive in that unit is there. This game is kind of the litmus test for that.
Look, what number would you put on it for the run game, to say they had a successful day? If UCF wins this game, they beat UNC, they beat North Carolina. What do you think the run game is going to look like? Now you mentioned the split between Miles and Jaden, but I've got to imagine that those guys combined have to carry the ball upwards of 35 times, and I would like to see more than 250 yards on the ground for the Knights.
Yeah, I think that's a fair number. Last game we had just over 350 between Miles, Jaden, and also Jakuri, with a pretty high number carrying there. I would love to see 250 between them. If they both have 100-yard plus days, that means that the split was right. But if one goes off versus one, as long as we hit that 250 mark, I think that means we're really doing our job in that unit. But once again, you got to have balance there. You got to have enough balance from there to be 250 rushing yards. How much do you expect in the passing game with that number as well?
Yeah, look, balance is important. I mean, when you're a balanced football team, they can't key in on any one thing, right? But what I suspect is that Bill Belichick is going to sell out to stop the run and force Taven Jackson to beat him with his arm. Now, we've seen flashes of what that could be. Andrew Glukov from UCFNightZone.com, him and I both predicted that Taven would win this job, and then Cam Fancher kind of came out of nowhere, seemingly, and won the job. But if you're Taven Jackson, you have a shot here. Trust your running backs. Trust yourself. He can run the ball, and don't make mistakes in this one. And that's why I think establishing the run is so important. Keep the ball out of harm's way and don't turn the ball over. That's one thing that I think will sink them to what is really looking like it's not a very good North Carolina team. And you lose to bad teams when you turn the ball over.
Yeah, I think being careful with the ball is the number one priority right now. And it's the little things that will get you there, like just not holding it right, or not having it in the right hand, or maybe a slightly underthrown ball or a slightly overthrown ball, or not checking where the mic is. It's a lot of things that are so little. It might be one little mistake where you end up with a turnover. Obviously none yet in the air. I know we've had one on the ground, but no silly mistakes in the air yet. I would hopefully look for that trend to continue here in this one against UNC.
Yeah, I agree, my friend. Just for reference here on defense, UNC allowing 203 yards per game passing, a number I think the Knights are going to have the best, and 134 yards per game on the ground. Again, both numbers I think they're going to have to exceed. They're also allowing 19 points per game. So, again, they're going to have to do better than all those totals if they want to get out with the win here. But we're going to play a little game of over-under in our next segment, talking about what we expect from this offense and from UNC's offense with G.O. Lopez. So we'll talk about that right after a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at Mazda. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, and they keep the game moving forward. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to every single Mazda vehicle. Go get yourself a Mazda today. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode of Locked On UCF is also brought to you by our friends at Wayfair. The weather's cooling down and the days are getting shorter, and that has me wanting to make my home feel even cozier. And when it comes to cozifying your space this fall, Wayfair is the place to go. Wayfair has everything you need to set the mood for the season, whether it's comfy recliners, warm bedding, autumn decor, or even an espresso machine. You can make your favorite latte at home. Cozify your space with Wayfair's curated collection of easy, affordable fall updates. From cozy recliners to cozy bedding and autumn decor, you find it all for way less at wayfair.com. That's wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. we're going to play a little game of over under here. As we referenced some numbers in that first segment, but we're going to start at the top here. UCF looked pretty explosive versus North Carolina A&T. However, it was North Carolina A&T, and this will be a little bit of a tougher test, maybe. I'm not really like who I'm seeing from North Carolina, but we'll see how it goes. But let's start with the passing game, man. Taven Jackson and his wide receivers versus that UNC passing game that's allowing that pass defense is allowing only 203 yards per game, over under 250 yards passing for the Knights.
Oof, 250 is a tough number because, I mean, Taven, he had 180 something against North Carolina A&T. He had in the 200s against Jack State. Give me the under. Give me the under there for the passing game. Yeah, I'm being cautious.
Okay, I'm homering out on this one, and I'm going over. I think we see something that we haven't seen before. I think we see some new wrinkles here.
Yeah.
In UCF's third game, I want to take you back to that North Carolina A&T game. Taven Jackson laid one out, and Marcus Burke just dropped it.
Yeah.
And the over here will be about those deep shots, catching those deep shots. Now, fortunately, a couple plays later, he threw it deep, and they made the play for him down the field. Should have been a touchdown. But if they can capitalize on those big throws, I see them hitting the over, and this one certainly. But let's get to the run game here. Over under. It's the same number. 250 yards rushing for the Knights.
Over. Give me the over. I am confident in the over for the run game. I think that is going to be the focus of the offense. I think when everything's said and done, if you hand the ball off, one of your guys is eventually going to make a play. Regardless of the offensive line. I think the offensive line has actually been okay in run blocking. I think the main worry for me is pass protection. And yeah, I think in terms of the run game, you're looking at a big breakout from Jaden and Miles. I think I would honestly love to see Stacy in this game, because if we put in Stacy, that means we have already been doing something right. We should be up a lot of points. I'd love to see a bunch of backs get carries this game.
Yeah, Stacy's got a few carries so far. Stacy Gage we're referring to there, if you didn't know. But Ja'Curry as well, too. I mean, we saw a little bit from him. I wonder if Scott Frost does not insert Ja'Curry Brown. I think he ran for 106 yards versus North Carolina A&T. He is a dynamic runner. Could that be a wrinkle we see added to this run game that could push them to that over?
I would hope so. I think you have such a weapon in Ja'Curry Brown that I felt was misused. I don't think he was underutilized. I think the misused would be the right word last year. Obviously Gus has his certain ways that he likes to work quarterbacks. I think Ja'Curry wasn't used in the proper way last year. I think there are ways to utilize his strengths, which definitely come from his just overall athleticism. I think, if you put him in the game, there's a chance he'll run a 30, 40, 50, 60 plus yard run. Just from the threat of having two rushing threats in the backfield.
Yeah, I think that the Ja'Curry Brown wrinkle, and you can't be afraid to let him throw it. You have to let UNC think that he's going to throw the ball when you put him in the game, or I think that the whole shtick fails there. Look, man, I'm going to go. We're going to get to our game predictions. So the next one is tough. But over under 2 turnovers for the Knights on offense.
Us turning the ball over?
Yes, you can take the push.
I'm going under. I think these guys, like, something that's big for me is this is coming off a bye week. I think a lot of times turnovers come with a sloppy team that's tired, that's injured, that's not at 100%. This is coming off a bye week after playing two not so physical teams. Well, Jack State, I'll give them their kudos. They were a physical team, but this is coming off a bye week where the previous week you played a not so great team that was not so physical, and your starters were only in 70% of the game. I think the guys have had time to rest. I think they've had time to think. I think when you have time to rest and you have time to think and you have time to look over film, teams are just less turnover prone.
Yeah. Look, talk to me about this game. They set the over-under at 46.5 points. Is this a shootout? Is this a low-scoring game? Is it a mid-game? Over, under 46.5 total points for these two teams in this one?
Well, to stay consistent with my game predictions and all that, I will say over.
Okay.
But I think calling it a shootout is not the right word. I think these teams are – I hope that this is not the case, but I hope UCF doesn't struggle on offense. I think UNC is going to struggle on offense. I think in the beginning of the game, like first half, you're going to see a lot of points scored just because defenses are still getting adjusted. But I think in the second half, you're not going to see nearly as many points scored. And I think, I'm going to stick with that. But I think that I think taking the over on the total points would be my guess.
All right. Look, I am actually taking the over as well, too. And I'm going to revise my prediction from earlier in the week here when we get to our third segment. But I have some different feelings about this game after talking to some people inside the program. Look, let's go over to the UNC side of this. Gio Lopez has 343 yards passing on the season after 3 games. He split reps with Max Johnson in their first game and then was the QB1 for the subsequent games there. But over under 200 yards passing for Gio Lopez.
I'm going to go under.
Yeah, I'm
going to go under because I think that he is going to get swarmed. I think it's just going to be really hard for him to get the ball off.
Yeah. I'm going to have to agree with you there. Look, so far this year, 58.5% completion percentage. If that holds, I'm not sure. I maybe understand why ESPN's matchup predictor is giving UCF a 83% chance to win this game. My mind was blown by that number, James. But hey, look, it is what it is. I feel like he may have a tough time on him. If you're Scott Frost, you got to come after him. You got to rattle him. You have to make him uncomfortable the entire game. That's
without a doubt. Yeah, no, I think you need to see the stadium pulse sign over his head. He's in the backfield. His hands are shaking to get that ball because he is expecting to get hit. That is what the environment needs to be in the bounce house. I think it will be. I think there's a lot of people coming to this game, and I think the players are ready to wreak havoc. I think the whole party in the backfield statement this year was phenomenal. I would love to see a party in the backfield this game.
Yeah.
I think the defensive line is what is going to set the tone. I like first drive on defense. I'm looking, what is the defensive line doing? How successful are they in their pass rush attempts? How successful are they at stopping the run? Are the linebackers creeping up to make plays in the run game? Those are my keys. I'll know after the first drive how I'm feeling about this game.
Yeah. I agree with all that. Look, man, at the end of the day, get to him. Right? Sincere Edwards, all those guys, look, get to him and get to him often. Over under, I'm going to set this pretty low here. UNC averaging a paltry 4.3 yards per rush so far this season. If they can't run the ball and they can't pass it, I don't know how you score in this one unless UCF is just giving you the ball inside their own 20. But over under 200 yards rushing for Tar Heels.
I'm going to say and this might take you by surprise, but I'm going to say over.
Okay.
I think that the run game is going to be the primary focus of UNC's offense. I think regardless of how many times you try to stop something, eventually something's going to work. Or even just individual plays might work. UNC had a very explosive back last year in Omarion Hampton. I think that you may see similar flashes in their backfield this year. Nothing to be as close or consistent as the talent of Omarion Hampton. But I think that 200 yards rushing isn't necessarily impossible. So I would go over.
Okay. All right. Look, I'm actually going with the over for all the same reasons you just mentioned here.
Yeah.
And I don't think that per yard per carry number goes up necessarily. But we just kind of see it, as the only offense they're able to generate in this one.
Yeah.
So, look, man, if they hit the under on both, great for UCF. I don't see them losing this game if they hit the under on both, but it is what it is. All right. Before we get to our next segment, over under 2 turnovers for North Carolina.
I want the push here. I want the push, and I think one's going to be on the ground and one's going to be in the air. I think there's going to be a silly throw thrown up by Gio Lopez. Believe me, I'd love to see 2 picks thrown in this game, both from Gio. I think it's plausible that happens. We've got a lot of playmakers, and you've got a not so great quarterback in the backfield of the Tar Heels there. But I think somebody puts it on the ground. I also wouldn't be surprised if it was Gio Lopez on a strip sack or a heavy sack in the backfield. I think a push or the over, but I'm going to say conservatively the push.
Yeah. Hear me out. I'm taking the over on this one.
Alrighty.
Yes,
I like
think
it.
Alex Grinch's defense absolutely ruins Gio Lopez for the rest of the season in this one, and the Knights cruise to a win here. So I'm taking the over. But look, hey, we want to hear from you. Give us your over under on the stats we mentioned, because look, your feedback is something we like to hear. I like to know what fans are thinking about this one. A lot of gloom and doom before the season about this matchup, and now it looks winnable all of a sudden. And UCF getting the bye week, I think, at a great time in this season, where you got 2 games and then you get to look at the film, regroup, focus on the things that you need to improve with your guys, and then move on. So great over under there, James. We're going to get to our break here, and after the break, we're going to give our predictions for UCF versus North Carolina after a word from our sponsors. This episode of Locked on UCF is brought to you by our friends at DoorDash. It's almost the weekend, guys. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP. Who delivered? Powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For UCF, I think the guy who's got to deliver is Taven Jackson. He is the key to it. Whether it's in the fourth quarter, whether it's in the third quarter, whether it's just finding an open guy downfield, Taven Jackson has to deliver. And when the pressure is on, I think he's going to do just that. And just like Taven Jackson is going to deliver for UCF, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season. You could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. This episode of Locked on UCF is also brought to you by our friends at Square. Your favorite neighborhood spot runs on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home. Whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, a coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades, there are places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. That's why Square is important. Chances are your favorite local business is using Square. So please go patron local businesses, because every time they use Square, you win and they win. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/locked-on-college to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. Time to make predictions. I had some feelings about this game earlier in the week, and I've changed my mind. So I'm going to go first here, James. I think that this is the game where Scott Frost flexes his muscle a little bit in terms of game planning and play calling. And I think that North Carolina feels the wrath of UCF in this one. I don't think we've seen the best of UCF through these first two games. What I've seen on tape is a ton of talent and a lot of room for improvement. I think they improve enough to win this one. I'm calling for UCF to win, and I think the score is 38-21 UCF Knights. Sir, talk to me, man. What's the score in this one?
Listen, here's the thing. I would really love to stay consistent with my previous prediction of 31-21, which I had on the show a couple days ago. I think I hate to say it, but I think I'm giving UNC too much credit. I think they get 2 touchdowns and a field goal.
Okay.
And I'm saying 17-31 UCF.
17-31. Okay, we're in the same range here on this one. Who's your player of the game? Give me a player. What's the player that's going to stand out in this one?
Oh wow. Offense or defense?
Offense.
Give me a big day from Marcus Burke.
Okay. The Florida transfer.
Yes, I think the Florida transfer is going to have a big day. I think a lot of people are going to have a big day. I think Miles and Jaden are going to have a big day. But I think in terms of the deep ball, Marcus Burke's got to be your guy. In terms of just sheer size and playability, he had a big drop last game on a 3rd down. Obviously, you had the Dwayne Thomas play on 4th and 3 the next play. But I would look for a big performance from him. I think Taven's going to air it out a couple times, and I think in those couple times that he's going to look for the deep ball, I think they're going to be to number 3, Marcus Burke.
I like that pick. Let me tell you something. I'm going with the guy who's going to be throwing the ball, and it's Taven Jackson. I love his deep ball, man. He throws a pretty deep ball.
Yeah.
And he gives his receivers a shot to make a play every time he airs it out 20 or plus yards. And that's going to be important, because when you lack a consistent offensive line and you're kind of, a team that hasn't played together as much with all the transfers that came in, big plays are important. And that's what I was wanting to see from Cam Fancher. He didn't stay in the game long enough, but I wanted to see how much of a big play threat can he be. And if you can hit on those plays, even when you're a little inconsistent moving the ball, you don't feel it on the scoreboard as much because you take advantage of those deep shots when your guys are open. Can Taven Jackson see the field and then hit the big play downfield when it's there? I'm telling you, it's going to be there in this one. You're at home. It's in your house. You got to show. If you're UCF, I'm talking to UCF fans right now, you have to show UNC what the bounce house is all about. This game is going to be about pride. It's going to be about whether you're going to let UNC come into your house and walk out and not feel it. Those guys need to remember the day they came to Orlando, and they got to hope they never come back.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And here's the thing. Last year, I felt this same kind of buzz for the Colorado game, and I think there was a letdown. This year, that buzz is in the air again. That buzz, you can feel it. Like, people are going to this game. People are traveling from out of town to go to this game.
Yes.
I think the bounce house is going to be rocking.
It's gotta be, James. It's gotta be, because here's the thing. I feel like I say this a lot on the show, but UCF fans, I understand probably better than anybody the slow death that you died with Gus Malzahn as coach. I experienced it with another school, and I saw it happen here, and it was so familiar, and it hurt, right? But when hope dies, instead of yelling your face off in the fourth quarter, you're tight, man. You're clinched up, just hoping they don't screw up. If you're Scott Frost, you have to get your team up for this one. They need to look prepared. They need to look motivated, and they need to come out and they need to punch Bill Belichick's squad in the mouth early and often and give fans that hope so they continue to show up. They get a little louder every home game, and before you know it, you've already exceeded every expectation that they have put on you, which is next to none. Before we started recording, we just watched Oklahoma State lose to Tulsa. You handled your Jack State. You handled your North Carolina A&T. Now it's time to whoop some P4 butt.
And here's the thing, Mike. This is the game to win the fan base over. Yeah. This is the game. Like, every year there's a game where you can feel that it's a test.
Yeah.
Last year, that test was Colorado, and Gus failed that test.
Yeah, he did.
And that's why the fan base turned. This year, this game is UNC. It is tomorrow at 3:30 EST in the bounce house. Yeah. Scott has to pass this test. And the second that clock hits 000 in the fourth quarter and the Knights are up, I tell you with 100% confidence, he has the entire fan base behind him.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Look, I mean, for all the talk about NIL and lack of funds and all that, if you want to get people motivated to give money to your program, go out and win Saturday. 3-0 to start the season. Incredible. You open conference play with Kansas State. I promise you that game can mean something if you win on Saturday. And look, I did not call for them to beat Kansas State, but I got to tell you, from what I'm hearing, if they get UNC, I'm going to feel pretty hopeful that they're going to give Kansas State at least a run for their money. And UCF could be the team that a lot of Big 12 teams didn't see coming. Last year, that team was Arizona State, and I'm not calling for them to come from the back of the pack to win the conference. So I don't want anybody to hear that. But certainly week after week, you're 0-0 every week.
Yeah.
Right? Your goal is to go 1-0 every single week. And if you're Scott Frost, this is where you flex your ability to be able to get your team up and ready for every game. It doesn't matter if it's Jack State or North Carolina or Kansas or BYU at the end of the season. Get these boys ready. Stories should be written about what happens on Saturday because people have underestimated UCF so much, and they were so much better than their 4-8 record from a talent perspective. But now if you think you got your guy at coach, this is a game that shows us how close or far away from that level you want to be at you actually are. James, I want to thank you for joining me today on today's show of Locked On UCF. This is our pregame show. We did it live, a little late for you guys, but it will be up in the morning. I see a few of you guys live here with me. We did get a comment here I want to talk about. And to your point about people coming in, he said he flew in from Boston for the weekend. That's what I'm talking about, man. Get the win for my guy Gonzo. He flew in. He flew in. I can't wait. I hope they win for you, my brother or sister, just in case. But look, hey, we're going to get out of here. As I mentioned, I appreciate you joining me on today's show. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On UCF your first listen of every single day. It's another big moment at Locked On. James, college football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season and only on Fire TV. Catch us here after the game on Locked On UCF.